Wolf Theiss Soundshot. Insights and analysis from one of the leading law firms in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe.
Welcome to a new Wolf Theiss Soundshot episode, Career Edition. In this episode, Sofia Kovacevic and Markus Taufner, both lawyers from our Vienna-based disputes team, speak with Johanna Klug from our recruiting team about their experiences around an LLM, the benefits behind it, what they might have done differently, HR's view on the topic, and useful tips for students and young lawyers. Sofia obtained her LL.M. from the University of Cambridge in 2014, while Markus obtained his degree from King's College in London in 2018. Johanna is a member of our HR team, recruiting lawyers for our office in Vienna.
So, hi Markus, hi Sofia. Thanks for taking your time today to talk about LLM studies, which is a very interesting topic for young professionals as well as students. I would just jump right into it. Why did you decide to pursue an LLM?
So in my case, I actually did my diploma studies in Austria and didn't do any, exchange year or exchange semester via Erasmus. So I had like the urge to go abroad and you know, gain some international experience in an English-speaking country. And it was also like at a point in time when I had some work experience. I've been working for 5 or 6 years for Wolf Theiss already, and somehow I wanted to also deepen my expertise in specific legal areas like cross-border litigation and comparative corporate law. I did my research and eventually came to the conclusion that I would like to go to London and that I want to apply for this international business law program at King's College London because it perfectly fit my needs, because they offer courses for negotiation and international dispute resolution, comparative law. So it perfectly fit my needs. I applied and eventually got lucky enough to be accepted. And yeah, this was my way.
What about you, Sofia?
Well, in contrast to Marcus, I did my LLM studies right after my undergraduate studies. I did actually two LLMs, one in a civil law system at the University of Belgrade, where I did my undergraduate studies, and the second one at the University of Cambridge in the UK in a common law system. I was always interested in international law, and for me, it made perfect sense to just broaden my knowledge in international law in a common law system, taking into consideration that I come from a civil law background. I decided to do and pursue an LLM in England because I came across a full scholarship, and it seemed to me back then as a good idea because why miss such an opportunity? So, this is in short my story how I decided to start this process.
And maybe you can both tell us about your experience and the impact the LLM had on your career.
Well, studying at the University of Cambridge is a special challenge also to be pre-selected and to go through the program. And it's a very specific environment. I had a chance to be exposed to and attend lectures from some of the most famous lawyers in the area of international law. Also, I had a chance to meet other colleagues from different countries and jurisdictions who were also being pre selected as one of the best from their countries. And such an atmosphere really pushes you to go further and to dig deeper. And it was really an intense experience in academic sense, but also all the extracurricular activities that Cambridge had to offer.
From my experience, actually, you need to distinguish between like the professional level and the personal level. So, on a personal level, I think it was just like such a unique atmosphere. Students from all over the world coming together in one place, and you meet so many people which have also also similar mindsets. It's very easy actually to meet new people, to make friends, and it's also interesting and really nice that you also after the LLM studies you keep in touch with them. You have like all those alumni events. Unfortunately, due to Corona, not really like in person anymore, but that you visit each other like in their respective hometown, and it's also useful from a professional perspective perspective, because we still have like an LLM group chat. So whenever you have a problem in another jurisdiction, you just drop a message in this group chat. And for example, a few weeks ago, there was a fellow student from Switzerland who dropped a message, hey, is there any M&A lawyer from Iceland? And then there was actually, and then they called and made a deal. So this is also one of the benefits, of course, that you have like a global network after your studies.
Yeah, I totally agree with Marcus. There are definitely two aspects that one need to consider. The first one is academic aspect and this personal. I can share my experience as for academical aspect and personal and networking. For me, practicing international arbitration, it was really important to be exposed to a common law system because in my daily work, we're dealing with rules in international arbitration, which are some sort of compromise between common law and a civil law system. So, in order to properly apply those rules, for me, it is important that I was exposed to common law system. Also, it helps me in my communication with other lawyers from common law jurisdictions. When we're dealing with international cases and clients, we do retain local counsels. But in order to ask them what research to do, I have to understand certain legal institutes from uh, deriving from the common law system. So for me, it turned out to be a good symbiosis between this common law system and civil law system, and it really enhanced my legal skills.
Good, but turning from this professional aspects, I would like to go back to the personal level again. So, Sophia, could you share your personal experience and the personal benefits you gained from your LLM program?
So, as you know, Cambridge is a small city, so everything is organized for the students and evolves around the students. So, you're the whole day with your colleagues from different countries, and of course, you develop a really close relationship with them. I still keep in touch with many of my colleagues from different jurisdictions, and we became friends, not just colleagues. And of course, if I need some advice from different country, they're always the first people to call. And yeah, and also we had a chance to share different experiences in Cambridge. There, I will just share two anecdotes from my experience there. All the students were able to attend formal dinners. What you saw in Harry Potter movies, that's actually reality in Cambridge. So we would have to dress up
Wow.
in order to go there in robes, and you can only attend there if you're formally dressed up and you're wearing a robe, and then you have your dinner where you have to behave. So this is something that sounds like a cartoon, right? But it's reality there.
Do you have an owl?
Well, there were special dinners where they would actually get an owl, but that would be a exception rather. And the second is we hear often about this English tea time, but we would actually have at 5, our library staff would organize for all the students tea time. So all the students would leave at 5 to treat themselves with a bit of cookies and coffee to refresh themselves and just to continue. So these are two examples just to show you how everything is dedicated to students, and our only task was basically to study and perform.
And another benefit that I think is really interesting for maybe some of our listeners is that when you pursue an LLM, like in the UK or in the US, you also improve your prospects of having an international career. Because if you study in Austria, or like you, Sophia, in Serbia, for example, you're somehow restricted in your jurisdiction. You can practice only Serbian or Austrian law. But for example, if you go to the US and if you have obtained an LLM degree there, there's also the possibility to like do the bar exam afterwards, and for example, to be admitted as an attorney in I don't know, the state of New York. So I think this is also one of the benefits that might want to consider when deciding to pursue an LLM.
Yeah, and also I think one of the most important factors is definitely improving your language and legal skills. I mean,
Mm,
it sounds obvious, but I can share my experience. It took me 2 months at the beginning of my LLM just to get into the legal terminology and legal
mm.
vocabulary. And not to mention that after a year, I completely reshaped my legal thinking and my legal approach because common law system has a completely different way of doing research, making thinking and structuring arguments. And this is something which is perfect in addition to your civil law background.
But I also think, we did a lot of comparative legal studies. You look into a specific problem from various perspectives, from various jurisdictions. So you look into one problem from, I don't know, from US perspective, Canadian perspective, Japanese perspective, Dutch perspective. So this also makes you understand how various jurisdictions solve the same problems, and this also somehow motivates you to rethink certain concepts in your jurisdiction, and maybe to come up with additional arguments, or even to better understand where these laws and this case law is actually coming from.
I was also wondering how you studied the whole application process. What would your advice be for someone who is considering applying for an LLM?
Well, I think the most important question one needs to answer is what I want to study. And then once you decided what you want, then the next question is where you want to do it. Not all countries offer the same programs, right? So if, for example, in international arbitration, there is a really good program in Geneva. For other branches of law, Geneva is not the best, but maybe the UK or the US. So one needs to do proper research before actually applying. That's the first step and the most important step. And then one important advice that I would give is that for all the people that want to do LLM, that it takes time. So if you decide now, then it will take you a year to start your program at least. So you have to start planning it on time and doing your research. What do you think about it, Marcus?
This is completely true. So you should also look on the home pages of the universities, because there you find also plenty of information on the programs and on the deadlines. Because this is also like a thing that you should have a look on the deadlines for the application process. Because you need to prepare at the end of the day a lot of documents. You need to obtain letters of recommendation. You might need to obtain like certified translations of your transcripts. You need to draft your cover or motivation letter. So these are all like a lot of steps and documents that require a lot of time. So the advice I can give you: do your research and prepare, prepare, prepare.
Yeah, I would also like to add that don't underestimate your colleagues and information that they can give you. It's not only the formal information that you find on the university page, but also speak to your peers. Go out there and actually say it out loud that you want to do an LLM, and you would be surprised how much information you can gather because people cannot read your mind and they don't know what you want to do. But if you
Mm.
actually say it, then your colleagues can help you.
And I think also one aspect that is very important in the course of preparation is like financials. Because this is also one point in a decision-making process, that you also need to finance the LLM. And for example, it is much more expensive to pursue an LLM in the US than it is in the UK. So this is also one aspect that you need to keep in mind.
Can you also share any recommendations on scholarships and funding?
Well, I will share my personal experience since I got a full scholarship for my LLM, and I discovered this scholarship randomly, I have to say. One day I went to the fair of scholarships, which was organized by my university, not my faculty of law. And then I was just walking around there to see what they offer, and I saw this scholarship program, which was, funnily enough, not advertised at my faculty of law. And one can say that it was a hidden information, but since I had interest to pursue my LLM degree, I was going out there and somehow it caught my attention because I knew what I want. That's one option to get a scholarship. And I think there are a lot of opportunities to get a scholarship. First, you start from the university page at which you want to pursue your LLM degree, and there are a lot of options there. Also, you can find a scholarship depending from the field you are already working in or which you studied. And then there are certain organizations which support either young professionals or young students. So those are some of the options that one can find. How about your experience, Marcus?
Yeah, it was also my experience that there are like a plethora of possibilities to actually finance your studies. So, even if it seems like an incredibly high amount that you need to invest in your LLM program, I think this should not like have a deterrent effect. Yeah, you will figure out a way how to finance it. You just need to approach like universities. I would like really exhaust every option that you have in this regard. And in my personal case, it was like that I had already working experience, so I had some savings from my job. And also in Austria, you have this opportunity offered by the Austrian labor market service, which is called Bildungskarenz. So if you pursue university studies or other studies, some kind of education, they finance you with a monthly amount, and based on that, I was capable of covering my expenses during the LLM. So you just need to do your research, and you will figure a way out how to finance it. And maybe also one aspect is that you can also save certain costs. So for example, universities also offer like cheaper student accommodations. They have like a cafeteria and this kind of stuff. So there are like possibilities and ways to cut costs on your LLM if you would need to do so.
Following up on your experience with the scholarship, are scholarships only based on academic performance or are there other scholarships available?
Well, in my particular case, I got a scholarship based on my academic performance, but there are definitely other scholarships which support young professionals, which means that you don't have to be necessarily one of the best students at your university, but you must demonstrate in any case that you are a young prospective professional. I already mentioned some in the field of arbitration, but for example, one of the scholarships to study in the UK is Chevening Scholarship, which supports young professionals who have at least 2 years of experience.
Okay, but Johanna, what about the perspective of HR? So, what's the stance, the perspective of Wolf Theiss and HR on LLM studies? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Speaking as a recruiter of an international law firm, we certainly highly value international experience. But of course, it depends in what area you're currently working in or you want to specialize in. So, for example, if that's corporate M&A, banking and finance, or litigation and arbitration, it would make sense to pursue international studies. And of course, that's something which helps you to stand out from your competitors because you already got this international experience. You also know how the common law, for example, deals with certain legal matters. And so you have this really broad perspective and of course also a network, an international network. So therefore an LLM is for sure an advantage if you want to pursue a career in an international law firm.
Yeah, that makes sense, because some practice groups I think have like more cross-border elements than others. So I think especially in the areas Sophia and I are working in, like arbitration, litigation, like this transnational, international experience actually pays off. But what about like potential alternatives? Does Wolf Ties offer any ways to improve legal English that you can do, like for example as a secondment, or that you have like language training? Are there opportunities in this regard?
Yeah, we actually offer both. We have like legal English drafting skills, for example, as part of our Wolf Theiss Business School. But we also offer the opportunity to do a secondment, for example, at the client, at another law firm, or at another Wolf Theiss office. So there are lots of possibilities next to the LLM to go abroad and, improve your language skills.
Mhm. So yeah, actually, based on my practical experience, I have to say that my daily work is, I would say, 50% in English and 50% in German. So I can say that the English legal skills I acquired during the LLM actually are really important in my daily work, and it from this perspective, it really paid off to pursue that LLM. So Sophia, what is your view on that?
Well, my situation is a bit different. For me, English language skills are crucial because I'm working in international arbitration, and I have to be proficient in English because most of my work is actually in English. I also cover different languages and I work in different languages, but we all communicate and draft and do legal analysis in English. I already mentioned that it took me 2 months at the beginning of my LLM to just get the hang of all the legal vocabulary. And that is why at the end of the LLM, it was just natural for me to do and perform research in English. And that is why I think it's crucial for someone who works mainly in English to do an LLM because it can really improve your language skills.
So thank you very much, guys, for the talk. I hope this provided some insights for our listeners. And stay tuned for the next episode of Soundshot.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Wolf Theiss Soundshot. For more information, you can contact us via email at soundshot@wolftheiss.com or visit our website at www.wolftheiss.com. You can also follow us here to receive further updates on developments in law and business from one of the leading law firms in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe.